Hi guys, weekly outlook with the US election obviously brewing. What's going on in the US? Is it going to be Trump or Harris who will run for Oval Office? Markets might have a different response, but we come to this in a minute. Yet, however, oil prices are quite at interesting levels as well. Why? There was a potential retaliation from the Iranians on Israel. And when will they happen? Potentially before the US election as well, to kind of put some oil in the fire that obviously caused the oil prices to rise further. So let's start with those markets and check out how commodity prices might be relating here. If you're looking at the US oil market, there was some technical resistance pattern, and that's seemingly what ended the month of October here. That one we talked a couple of times. We had the 50 moving average sideways pattern, and now there could be room for downside motivation, or the market might fade a little bit, retest this breakout zone here to then basically weaken somehow further. The upside seems to be quite limited as the market shows this 50 moving average, the pin bar candlestick pattern. After all, there might be some further negative sentiments and negative correlation here. Hence, obviously, kind of causing the market momentum to basically weaken. Plus, we are back trading below the 70 US dollar level, psychological resistance area. And that one has caused the market kind of to see further motivation here. So that said, downside potential might be the case unless, and that's the same story still, which repeats itself, unless any geopolitical tensions will flare up again, causing oil prices to basically in the end strengthen to potentially face further market motivation. In general, now, next topic, election. The US election is obviously shaping up market momentum. Expectation from my side, the US dollar is gearing up some steam. We see euro dollar basically back to lower levels. We see the pound potentially weakening, which it did so far. The Australian dollar potentially moving towards lower price areas, just because uncertainty is the key element in this current market hemisphere. And that negativity might be what the US dollar, despite those negative NFP figures, 12,000 newly created jobs, that's holy moly, not a lot. Expected though, negative weather season obviously causing some sort of an impact. So with that, we could see that further momentum might be seen in the greenback, causing the market momentum to weaken. The pound US dollar is currently trading at lower levels, and it looks like that the week had seemingly basically started to also continue with the recent downtrend. Downside momentum might intensify as well. We have now a strategic support level here. And that strategic support level might kind of be an interesting one to see that the market is basically falling through here, 128.80. So below the 129 psychological support zone, market fading. And what do we have? We have on Thursday an election. No, sorry, the election is in the US. We have the Bank of England. Yes, there is sort of an election. And in regards to that one, it's about interest rates. Will rates basically be adjusted is the key question here. Looking on Thursday's data here, basically a 25% basis point reduction in interest rates might obviously shake up markets a fair bit as well, because there could be further impactful momentum in this regards, causing the pound to weaken somehow further. Plus, we had some information in regards to the government spending. Bond prices were kind of really basically reactive to that piece of news. So there is some issues, underlying issues in the UK economy, and obviously in government and spending in particular, and that's translating to further a downside momentum, potentially causing the market motivation to basically weaken further. Looking here for downside momentum in this market environment. Last but not least, due to the election in the US, and that's the correct one now to say, we have the presidential election coming up on Tuesday next week. That is potentially shaking up markets as well. We could see dollar strength, we could see a dollar weakness, stock markets might be reactive. And again, same story like I laid out beforehand. I would expect that stock markets weaken beforehand to maybe see some upside potential medium term, depending on how the situation goes and who is going to be the pre-elected winner for the election. That said, we have also information from Australia on Tuesday. The cash rate is expected to be at similar levels. And let's have a look on the Australian dollar, because the Aussie had basically weakened as well recently. However, not as much as other currencies. The pound weakening by far. The euro, we'll check in how this one goes. But the Aussie is actually looking to set and looking to weaken even further. So below the support zone here, below this area, there could be some sort of further negativity here to come. And again, we have this kind of big important pin bar candlestick pattern with a long wick to the downside, and that zone is an important one, which if it's broken, it might be retested, and we expect volatility to basically rise throughout the and during the US election. So that's something we might see as a turning point here, should the market weaken to below this area, to below this zone. Basically, that's here the area of support 165, psychological support area. If it's going to be broken, the market might fall, might retrace back to that aforementioned area, and then hence obviously kind of cause sort of further weaker potential, and the Aussie basically pushing to downside areas. Yes, the euro, it is kind of quite interesting in regards to the election in the US, how this one is going to move. The downside was quite interestingly happening during the news event, the non-farm payrolls, weaker data, good for the economy, good for the US, potentially not so much, but the greenback was using this to gear up further strength. This strength is what we can see here right now, and that's now like the market looks bound for lower price areas across the board. We have to say euro weak, pound weak, Aussie somewhat weak, and now the question is as well, how is the outcome gonna be in the next couple of trading days moving forward? Now, back towards the stock markets, we can see they have not really responded much on Friday. They were kind of prepared to weaken somehow. Technical patterns here, 50 moving average, that's on the S&P 500, causing basically renewed weakness in this market. The same was true for Nasdaq. Tech stocks, tech companies have weakened previously a fair bit. We got the news as well, looking at here from Wall Street Journal's information on Friday. S&P and all the tech industry was basically kind of sold across the board. Is that going to move forward here in the next couple of trading days? I might say yes, but the important zone, the important support area here, and that support area needs to break first, right? So if that's being broken, then downside potential could intensify. Then we have the same story here as well with the Dow Jones. The Dow looks kind of settled at the moment, but we have on this long-term market pattern quite some negativity potentially ahead. These trend lines, we have the rising trend line, we have this trend line which narrows slightly to the upside, but if it's being broken, downside potential could intensify, causing the Dow Jones to weaken further. Looking at the DAX on Monday, I'd expect the same story to basically unfold here. I would expect further weakness of the underlying story in the in the European German economy, kind of quite negative. Looking ahead, by the way, as well, questions and some sort of rumors for this currently Democratic-led uplift. Maybe numbers are being kind of twisted slightly and postponed to a later, depending on the election outcome. If the numbers are being kind of polished up slightly to look better before the election, to potentially push Kamala Harris, that would be one street talk story of the recent couple of trading weeks, basically. Then after the election, figures could be bad. Even worse figures than expected could lead to another downside in markets, because why is basically Jerome Powell talking about, wait, we have to lower interest rates to support the economy, if currently the economic figures look kind of quite good in the US? Think about this. I might be wrong, but that's some sort of a rumor, basically to kind of prevent ourselves from being hit hard from the sidelines, basically, should upcoming figures come in negative. Couple of words in regards to the precious metal sector. Silver back lower, back down and rolling. Our long position, we closed up the high points, one near the high, another one when the low was broken. Now looking for new entry opportunities. The market is pretty much waiting for this support area to be tested. If this zone is being tested, we could see an uplift. Silver might continue to rise. Economic demand, the big question, the big story. See how this one is going to be unfolding in the near future. The gold price, by the way, doing the same story. Also gold kind of weakening off the high points here. Also here there is some sort of further reasoning, and on the week we had this quick pin bar candlestick pattern, which potentially could lead to further downside momentum. So gold prices should be kept in a consideration as well, depending on how the market goes. News-wise, we talked about the Australian dollar on Tuesday. We talked about the US election on Tuesday. Bank of England on Thursday. And now the fourth biggest news event, or huge news event, is going to be the FOMC. 25 basis points rate adjustment. As I laid out, I would expect this to happen. Could weaken fundamentally the US dollar a fair bit, depending on how the economic outlook goes and how the aftermath of the US election is going to be. So those figures are kind of quite the interesting ones, and kind of at a later week, again, not at NFP, which was basically on Friday, 2 days ago here, employment data from Canada, making it kind of quite interesting. Couple of words in regards to the Canadian dollar, really a strong resistance area. That's the zone we see here, and this zone was so far holding steady in place. Is that going to tell us that the outlook breakout is not going to happen? Well, the market might break to the upside. It still looks like the upside potential. And by the way, we had this pin bar candlestick pattern from the week before, where we said the market might rise. Look at where we ended this week. Just look back to the previous YouTube video and you'll find out what I mean here. So upside, we were pretty much spot on this one. The dollar against the Canadian dollar seems to be not finding an end. This market runs and runs and runs, and now there's the clear breakout happening. So this breakout in the making, this breakout successfully happened here, and with that, I might say, wait for a retracement to enter again. Yeah, so look for the market potentially to find the downside potential. Slight correction is what we might see. Should a correction happen, the market might continue pressing further towards upside areas. That's now most of the stuff we wanted to talk about. Crypto markets, they are really interesting as well, because the breakout, we said cryptos bound for 80,000. We were not totally right, but we were right with that the market is going to explodes to the upside. Bitcoin basically tested the 73,200 area, and it went and broke out of this messy sideways pattern. However, it kind of indicated right now, it is still indicating actually that the downside is going to potentially intensify. Here is why. The technical resistance pattern, that's one thing. Dollar strength, the market pulling to the downside. The technical pattern we talked about here already, but the market looks like it's fading from one area to the next, and hence, well, long term, we could see that if a breakout is happening to the upside after Wednesday, Thursday, in line with the news events, weakening US dollar could give this market a push. If Donald Trump is going to win, Bitcoin might go through the roof. If Kamala Harris is going to win, maybe not so much. So that's what the market seemingly at least reflects here right now. Upside kind of open, but currently, and based on weekly charting patterns, looking to be set for a weaker price pattern. But however, we haven't finished this week yet, so this pin bar candlestick pattern needs to be printed in stone first. Similar story, by the way, that Ethereum, Ether does the same story. It also looks kind of quite weak, and it looks like it's going to fade back to the downside here. Trendline remains in place. The market might be ready to break higher, but for now, it looks like it's going to weaken further and start to push back to lower price levels here first. Before anything else might happen. Guys, that's my take for the weekly market outlook. We have a ton of news events next week. Australian or RBA, Royal Bank of Australia, US election on Tuesday. Then we have Thursday, the Super Thursday, Bank of England. Expect a little video from my side as well. Plus, we have the FOMC on Thursday this week. Oil prices look set to weaken. Precious metals could return to lower levels as well. The dollar has been gearing up some strength. If that's going to intensify, we could see all the euro, the pound, the Aussie and other currency pairs to weaken further in line with this current market price sentiment. Dollar Japanese yen had found a bit of a resistance area and might actually weaken as well further. On that nutshell, I'd like to release you guys. Talk to you soon. See you then later. And please leave your comments below the video and don't forget to subscribe, of course, to the channel.